Okay. How are we all doing?
Yeah!
Woohoo! I have no slides and no TV, so I'm doing good. Oh, now we have it. This is not on, tech people. So while we're waiting to get this turned on, oh, we've got some weird stuff going on there. I will just talk while that's happening. Okay, we're here. So who here has heard of Playwright? Be honest and shout. You can shout or put your hands up. Who has heard of Playwright? Okay. Who here is using Playwright in production? That was 4 people. Okay, I'm gonna change your lives, so don't worry about it. It's early days. So yes, I had a lovely intro, and yes, we did go for a run, and that is proof of our run at 6:30 in the morning on this beautiful sunny day at 6:30. The sun was shining, and the rest of the speakers, you can't see them because of the dark background, but they're there. So yes, I like to do 3 hours of sport a day. I think it's very important to do sport in your life. If you don't like sport, I think you should do something in your life that does not involve a computer screen. So make sure you're taking time out. Work-life balance is important, mental health is important, so please look after yourselves. Also, shout out to Omar, who's watching from home. So Eamon and Omar invited me here, and Omar has a bad back, and he's stuck at home. So big claps for Omar. So yes, follow me on Twitter if you want to see me running and cycling around Mallorca, Debs_O'Brien. So let's get this show on the road. Are you writing tests? I am not a school teacher, don't worry. Okay, do you like writing tests? That was not clear, right? That was okay, why do you not like writing tests? What's the problem? They're slow. I get you, don't worry, I'm gonna fix that. Anyone else, what other problems do we have? They're flaky, yeah, I'll fix that, don't worry. Anything else? Time consuming. I didn't hear that, but yeah. Mocking, okay, yeah. That's it, right? Oh, what? Clunky. The setup, so yeah, and it takes a lot of time to set it up. Okay, so it's like, oh, so depressing, and you come to see this talk, right? Okay, so how can we fix this problem? What's the solution? That is the right answer. But anyone else got a solution? Seriously? No, don't test. Just don't write tests. That is the solution. That is a lot of people's solution. Yeah, go for it. Use accessibility APIs to write your tests. Okay, but you're still writing tests, but yeah, I like it. Okay, they break less often. Good. And write better code as well. But okay, don't worry, I'm gonna tell you the answer. And Tejas is right, the answer is Playwright. But so Playwright is reliable end-to-end testing for modern web apps. It works on any browser, so whether you're using Mac or Windows, if you're on Windows, you can run Safari, etc. So any platform, one API. Tests run in full isolation. What does that mean? It means if you have one test here, you run that test, the other test is run in this browser context. They don't talk to each other. Nothing leaks from one to the other. It's separate, full isolation. So then you don't have as flaky tests as you would have with, other situations. Fast execution, so everything's running much faster, so you're not going to have that slow problem. And powerful tooling, which I will talk about today. And then multi-language, so if you are using JavaScript, TypeScript, that's cool, but you might have some other developers in your team who use Python, who use C#, or who use Java, and you can totally as well use Playwright with those languages too. So all throughout the company, everyone can use the one framework, which makes it very cool. So, anyone using VS Code? Yes, lovely. So I'm going to show you in VS Code, but don't worry if you're not a VS Code person, there's still time. But you can also do everything through the terminal as well, okay? But VS Code is really cool because right there is an extension. You install the extension. Make sure you have the Microsoft blue check mark because Playwright is by Microsoft, so look out for that. And once you have that, then you, in the command panel, install Playwright. And as simple as that, it's going to say, what browsers would you like to install? And you say, I want Chromium, I want Firefox, and I want WebKit, or maybe you only want one, whatever. And you can change it later in the configs, no problem. Also, if you're afraid of TypeScript, you can click that button there. I know some of you are still not there yet, but you will, don't worry. So yeah, you can just use JavaScript if you want, but it's TypeScript by default. And you can add a GitHub Actions. What does that mean? It means if I click this button, my GitHub Actions are set up, and now my tests will just run on continuous integration on each pull request and on each push. without you having to do any work. It's just tick that box and done. Yes, I love it. So what you get after you install is basically this. There's an example test comes with it. We're going to run that example test. And then in the test examples folder, there's a to-do app tests, and you can go through that in your own time. And then you've got the Playwright config, which you're not going to need to use much unless you want to set up your own server to run the server and then run the tests, for example, or to change and run like mobile and things like that, which we'll look at later. So running the tests, you can run all tests, a set of tests. You can run a single test. All tests run in parallel for free without you having to do anything, and that makes it super fast. So I'm going to use the VS Code extension. So on line 3, I've got this lovely little triangle here, and all I need to do is press that green triangle, and the test will run. And it's going to spin up a browser, and I have my test here. It's a very simple test. It just tests that that goes to the installation page, and I can just run it again here from the testing side. But you can see this is because I have the show browser clicked here. If I don't want to see that browser, I'll uncheck that, and then I can run those tests and not see what's going on. So what happens when we have bugs? Because we never have bugs, do we? No. So if you have bugs, you can have live debugging in VS Code. So basically, we're going to break this test. Let's put the word star. Let's run that test. And now we're basically getting an error, right? And it's saying there's a strict mode violation. Playwright is strict by default. What does that mean? It means it needs to have one specific thing, right? And star is found in 3 items. Now, if I don't understand the log message, I can set a breakpoint, rerun in debug mode, and then it's going to go through here, and it's now showing me in the browser, it's saying get by text star. This is the first one Playwright found, get by text star, the second one Playwright found, and at the bottom, number 3, the third one that Playwright found. So Playwright's like, which one do you want me to click on? Because I don't know, I'm not sure, and I want your test to be good. So then you can kind of go back in and say, well, let's play around with this, and let's live debug those selectors. And you can see, like, get star, for example, there's only one instance of that, so that one would be a valid selector. Or you can kind of like, totally go crazy and let's put something like, play, for example, and Playwright has come up with this 12 of those. That would be a terrible selector because that would just be like break completely. And you can just literally like write in VS Code in the editor, type along those selectors, see what is available to you in the browser, and it just makes it much easier for debugging. And then you can just like play through that, remove the breakpoint, add another breakpoint, etc. So let's go talk a little bit about locators, right? So you probably saw there locators. Locators are a way to find elements on the page. Think of like the Google pin, it just drops into the map, right? So it has auto weighting and retriability built in. That means like don't set a timeout. You don't need to set a timeout because Playwright will wait for everything to be ready. So obviously there's a max time that Playwright's not going to wait forever, right? So if your web is really slow and you're loading like loads of JavaScript, after like say 5 seconds, Playwright will go, oh, this website is terrible. And you could change that in the configuration, or you could write better code and make sure the web is faster. And it's going to retry that a couple of times as well. So locators are built like this. The page.locator, and then you add a selector in here. And it's strict by default, we saw that. So here's your locator, and then I'm just using a data test ID, for example, and then you put the click method on that. That's one way of writing locators. Now, we released literally 1 week ago exactly our new API, which is inspired by testing library. Any testing library fans? Lovely, excellent. So we work with Ken C. Dodds on this, and we basically have very similar to what he has. Community have loved this. Let me put this a bit bigger so you can see. So we've now got page get by label, username Phil John, get by label password Phil secret password, get by role, really important, and I suggest you use get by role because accessibility is important, as this guy pointed out, and then the name sign in, and then await expect get by text, welcome John to be visible. So using this API is a lot better. So this is the latest release. If you're already using Playwright update 1.27, and you'll get all these coolness. So now you've got to pick all these selectors, and you're like, oh my God, it's so difficult. I don't know which one to pick, right? Yeah? Yeah? Yeah. So you can just click on pick selector, and Playwright will just do it all for you. So once I click this, I hover over the page. You can see it's highlighting there. Get by role heading, name installation. Don't have to do any work, don't have to think. It's just doing it for me. I press it, and it's right here in that pick selector box. I just press enter. It's now in my clipboard. I can come down to my code, and I can literally just paste it in there and rerun that test. And obviously, that will fail because it's the wrong page and the wrong thing. But basically, I can go back here. I can click and just hover over. Is that the one I want? Get by role link. Do I want, there we go, get by role link, name, how to install Playwright. And it's going to choose the best selector for you, so you don't have to think about what selector should I use. So this is kind of really cool and built into VS Code. If you're using the terminal, it's also possible it comes up with the inspector and you just get a little bit different, but it works exactly the same. So don't worry if you're not a VS Code user. OK, moving on. Make sure you're using web first assertions. This is how you're getting the the auto weights and everything that comes with the retriability. So expect locator to be checked, expect it to be disabled, to be focused, to be hidden, to be visible, to have text, to have title, to be etc., to have screenshots. So these are all and more available to you. So let me introduce you to codegen. When you understand how codegen works, when you see him in action, then you'll understand why I do 3 hours of sport a day and how I can do that. So codegen is my friend, and he's great. He writes all my tests for me. I actually don't do anything. Codegen is not perfect, OK? It's a bit like, you know, GitHub Copilot. It's amazing, but it's not perfect, so keep that in mind. But it is very cool. So I'm going to show you how quickly and easily it is to write a test. OK, so bear with us. What shall we test? Let's have a look. So how to start off, we first can open up the testing sidebar here. And in the testing sidebar, we have a record new. We click on record new, and we get a browser window. Now in VS Code, I've got a page test1 spec. It's importing Playwright, and it started off that test block. OK, so let's go and check out one of our favorite websites, Netflix, right? And let's test Netflix. So over here, we can kind of say, yes, I love cookies, so give me all those cookies. Brilliant. And that's going to put that in there. Get by role button, name, accept, click. Perfect. That looks good. I'm going to click on the logo there. I don't really like that selector, so let's fix that code later. Fill 14. That's not a good one, so we'll check. We'll worry about that later. And let's go on. We can click on the header. Normally, the user wouldn't click on the header, but I want to click it so that it's in there, and later I'll change that to be an assertion. OK, and let's go down to the bottom of the page, and let's do something fun. Let's ask for help. I like help. So let's say we can't sign in to Netflix, so we'll click on that. We get this lovely, OK, this is the article. We'll check on this, and we'll say, here we got get by role heading, can't sign in. Lovely. Was this helpful? Yeah, we'll be nice. This was very helpful. Let's click on that. That's lovely. And we got thanks for the feedback. And now let's do something fun. Let's start the live chat. OK, let's go in here. And it says, before you chat, any of this help? No. Tell us what your issue is. Yes, let's do that. That's more fun. OK, what will we put? We will put just something like that we're testing the chat out now. I'm sorry to anyone if they work at Netflix, because I was literally running this test again and again over the last week. And I've been talking to everyone in customer service, and they think probably I work for Netflix. So yes, chat with an agent. Yes, let's chat with the agent. Can I log in? No, I can't. Of course I can't. Someone will be with you. Perfect. Netflix have a very fast chat system. They literally get back to you in a minute, super fast, so well done to them. And you can see here, I'm just waiting. Playwright is waiting, right? Playwright is also waiting. So I'm like, OK, here we go. Who did I get? I got Marcial. OK, lovely. And I'm like, I'm going to be nice, so I'll just kind of tell Marcial that I'm just testing the chat. And Marcial's probably going to the dev team saying, can you stop testing the chat? You have a test team for that. OK, let's close this up. Let's end the chat. Yeah, we'll end that now. Perfect. And now look at this, right? I want an email me a transcript, right? This would be really cool. So watch this. I'm going to put Debbie, and I'm just going to press send. And oh, it's sent. Oh, Shonda, you need to fix that. So yeah, that's fantastic. And let's go back to the home page, and let's go down to the bottom, and let's go across to another domain. Let's test across, because we can test across multiple domains. So Netflix, you can actually test your Wi-Fi speed. So we can test that. We're now in another domain. We can just check that the logo's there, for example. Really bad Wi-Fi I had, I know. And I can click on that and just make sure that that's there. So there's my test. written, right? And that was like, what, 3 minutes? We spent 3 minutes. All I did was talk, and codegen wrote the whole test for me. Like, is that amazing or what? Yes. Yes. So now you have absolutely no excuses about writing tests or about doing 3 hours of sport a day. Okay, as I said, it's not perfect, but in case you're thinking like, does this actually work? Is this test going to pass? We tested across iframes, we tested across multiple domains. So let's play the test. Let's actually run the test, and as you'll see, it's running up that whole chat. It's going into it. Someone's going to be with me. Playwright is waiting, and we got Shania this time. Thank you, Shania. And I sent her. I got my transcript, but I didn't get it because it just went to Debbie and not Debbie at, because I didn't put the at. And my internet is still slow, and that was lovely. And test run. So wow, it works. So now, obviously, that's not a perfect test. As some of you who are actually writing tests are going to say, all you did was click, and all you did, and all I've got is clicks, right? So I need to improve that. But it's really, really simple now. And thanks to the new Locator API, it makes it easy because I've got like get by role. So get by role button is a click, yes. And you can see here I've got like get by role heading. We want a heading to be visible. So I was able to add that expect there easily and change that click to be visible. Now I've got an assertion in there, and I can like go through my test that was generated and just make sure that those roles are correct. The button is a click, the heading, turn that into to be visible, and now I've got better written tests. And it's very easy and simple to understand because it makes sense, right? So that's it. That's the test done. Easy. And we can just all go home now, right? So let me show you a little bit about reports, right? So once we've kind of done our tests out, we want to spin up a report of what's going on with our tests. So we can use npx playwright show report. This is the first time now I need to open the terminal because we don't have this built into the VS Code extension yet, maybe one day. So in the terminal, I run this, and it's going to, first I run the test in the terminal, and then I run the show report. And it will give me a report here, and I'm running this test on Firefox. It's breaking on Firefox, and I can go in and say, right, what's going on in Firefox, and investigate that. It's passing on the rest, but I can kind of see what's going on. If I click there, it's going to give me a whole log, which is kind of boring to run and walk through, but it's all there. But I'm going to point out this little icon here, which looks like jail. I don't like this icon, but it looks like jail. But this is the trace. And I'm going to click on the trace, and I'm going to show you what the trace is. Now, you're probably all looking going, what is a trace? Don't worry, I'm going to tell you what the trace is. First, let me show you how to run the trace. To record a trace for each test, you basically do npx playwright test -- trace on. This is when you want to do it locally. Normally, the trace will run on CI on the first retry. So it's going to, every time if a test fails, on the next retry, it's going to actually save the trace for you. Because generally, you don't want to be saving traces of all your past tests, because that's just pointless, right? You only want a trace of a test that fails, so you can go back and check over it. But I personally like it for developing. Even though the live debugging is great, I think the trace is better. That's my personal opinion, my way of working, but everyone to their own. So if you want it just kind of locally, this is what you do. Now, this is our trace. So we've now got this trace. We clicked on from the report. We just clicked on this button, and it opens up this PWA. This PWA is local, so don't worry. Nobody's seeing this. No one can see my code. But it's a zip file, so I could send it to someone else, and they could run it. And they can, once they use Playwright to run it or throw it on the trace.playwright.dev website, throw it up, and they're now running that local PWA. So here's my trace. I can literally have a timeline that goes across, and I can literally go in slow motion across words and backwards to see what's going on and what happened in that test. Now, this is an image screenshot you're seeing, so I can kind of like nice and slowly, I can see the animations of the chat coming in. Someone's going to be with me shortly, and I can scroll along and see June Marie it was this time. Thank you, June Marie. And I can end that chat. I can kind of see what's going on. Scroll along, and up it tells you the locator. Click, I'm in the iframe, and I'm entering the frame using the text equals. So each kind of color coded up there is actually what's what action or what's happening. So I can see here I've got the transcript. So what happened there? I can go back, go forward, go into the next domain, see what's going on there. Now, if that's not enough, because just an image snapshot moving forward and back, I can go all the way along to the actions, and every single action I can click on in my own time, jump through actions, and now I have in the middle here a DOM snapshot. So I've got a DOM snapshot of my site, And I can see the action, I can see before and after what was happening, and I can go through it, I can see it's expect to be visible, what text, the locator click role equals name, the iframe with the internal control. And over on the other side, I'm getting all this information. It's expecting it to be visible, the locator.click. I've got the selector of the iframe there, strict as true. I'm waiting for the iframe, I've got the whole log there telling me exactly what's going on. I can see the button there of what was clicked, what came up. And then, look, this is a DOM snapshot, as I said, so I can actually type in here, right? It's not an image, it's a DOM snapshot, so it's kind of very, very cool. Obviously, like, you know, you can't interact with the chat because that already happened, but it's a DOM snapshot, which means I have full access to Chrome DevTools, to everything else that you would normally have in a website. And it's also much better for seeing the animations and seeing kind of what's going on. I also have full access to the console and to the network. So if there are any console errors or any network requests that I wanted to investigate or any problems coming back from the network, I could also see in there. So here we got one console error and 18 network requests. So I could go in and find out what was going on in there and check that out. And I can also see all the source code. So imagine, like, you know, you're the one that's found this error and you're not the developer and you don't have access to the code. You can look at the code and kind of say, oh, I see what's going on here. I can see that you've added this and it should be that, for example. And then you can kind of like tell the developer, hey, here's a zip file, go check it out. I've seen on line 22, there's an error. Maybe you should fix that, and then they can go and fix that. So you can see there I'm opening up the DevTools and I have full access to everything that's going on there. And then also in the metadata tab, I can also see what metadata is available, if it's a mobile, if it's running on Chromium, if it's running on Firefox, et cetera, et cetera. So what do you think of the trace viewer? Woohoo! I think it's really cool, and I like to develop with this kind of running and kind of like play along with it. But you know, definitely for CI, it is very, very good. So let's do some more kind of fun stuff, because this video will go on for ages. Here's the network, you see, just so you can see it. Let's do testing the navigation. Have we ever had to test a navigation? Yes. Yeah? Is it like frustrating sometimes? Yeah. Why? Because it's time consuming, it's slow. Oh, I'll show you quickly how to test a navigation. So again, codegen's going to come to the rescue here. We're going to record it, and we're going to go to a website you should all be using, which is the beta.react.js org website. These are the docs you should be using. They should be just live and by default. It's like Rachel Neighbors done an amazing job on them with Dan Abramov, and they're just not finished, so it's not fully live, but they're much better than anyone. So here I'm testing the navigation. I'm just literally clicking on the links and opening up, like clicking on the heading. Nothing exciting going on here. I'm literally just testing the navigation. I want to make sure that works, and I get my test, right? Now, I really need to go and change those into assertions. I'm not going to do that right now. I'll do it later. The test works. It's going to run through all this, and it's going to basically make sure that's good. So my menu is working. Easy, right? No? What was it time consuming? So now my test works, right? And now I want to check on mobile. Right? Yeah, this is where it gets confusing, doesn't it? So I'm going to like go into my config file, and I'm just going to uncomment this out, and I want to run my test on mobile Safari. So I'm going to uncomment that out. Now I'm running on WebKit, Chromium, and Safari, for example. I could run on any others. And of course, the test fails on mobile Safari. Damn. Why does it fail on mobile Safari? Because we don't support mobile. Of course we support mobile Safari. Everyone supports mobile Safari. So Safari doesn't support the new stuff. Stop blaming Safari for everything. They're trying. No, the test is failing on mobile Safari. Anyone else, why would that test that we just wrote right there fail on mobile Safari? I heard navigation. Shout it out louder. They have a different navigation, exactly. Mobile has a different navigation, so it's right to fail that test, because it can't. It's a different mobile, because mobile normally have that hamburger menu, right? They don't have the menu going across. So how do we fix this? What's the solution?
If mobile Safari, click on burger menu. Else, click on...
I like that. If mobile Safari, click on hamburger menu. If not, whatever, which is very, very good. Some people, when I asked them, they said, write another test. And I'm like, oh my God, no, you don't want to write another test. That's like defeating the whole purpose. So exactly what he said, almost. Very similar. If is mobile, because it doesn't matter if it's mobile Safari or if it's Pixel or whatever, all mobiles will have that hamburger menu. So we have access to this is mobile from the metadata. So we can say, pass that in as a fixture, is mobile, and then we can say, if it's mobile, await the page, get by role button with the name menu, click on that, and then continue and do what has to be done, right? That's a normal situation. In the React docs is a little bit different, because if you go to the React docs, you'll actually see that if it's mobile, we basically have the get by role button, but we also have another button because the mobile actually doesn't go to a URL on the mobile. It actually just changes the menu, and you can explore that in your own time. And then I have to go, if it's not mobile, it's a link, it's not a button. So now I'm testing the difference between the roles, and you can see like that is running perfectly as it should. And it's literally because the way they've designed it is one is a link on desktop, and it's a button on mobile because it's re-rendering that menu in there. And check that out in your own time, but that's basically how it works. So we have access to if it's mobile, if it's not mobile, and how to do those tests, which is kind of really cool. And obviously, if you're repeating some of that code, you could take that out as a fixture and then like bring it in so you're not making that code always repetitive. So running tests on CI, as I said, this slide is enough because you don't have to do anything. This comes by default, that's what you get, and that is enough for it to work. Unless you're doing component testing, then you'll have to write the component tests in here because they have a different run. I'll show you that in a second. But you just basically put that another name and then another run in there, npx playwright test CT for component testing. Once you run your tests on CI, you're going to get basically this. Fail tests, pass tests, you can kind of see what's going on. You can click into them. And then in the actions, you basically have here, which is the Playwright report, which we saw. From that Playwright report, you've got that trace on a failed test, and you're able to download that trace as a zip file, and then open it up, play along with it, send it to someone, and fix your tests. So component testing, I'm not going to go through much, but basically you know how to test components. So basically you can do it with Playwright, just install this on top of your normal Playwright, and then basically you can run component tests, and you can test your components run in isolation outside of like, there's no header, there's no footer, so you can visually see that component and run those tests, which is much nicer than kind of unit tests. So Playwright has a VS Code extension. We talked about codegen, which is amazing. We can run in debug mode. We have locators. We can have frame locators, so we can test, chats and anything in iframes. We can show reports. We can show trace files. We have auto built in for all actions. There's no need to set timeouts. All tests run in parallel for free. We don't have to pay any money for that. It just works. Super fast. Multiple browsers, as you saw. Multiple devices, as you saw. Intercepts requests. It follows all redirects. It bypasses cores. It manages your cookies. It's like it does everything, and you just go do sport for 3 hours a day. So thank you. Playwright is open source and free. It's by Microsoft. And if you're going to say, like, who's using Playwright? Everyone except all you. Like, seriously, like, look at it. Just look at it. We love GitHub stars, so, make sure you go to GitHub and give us stars. We, like, celebrate stars. But, yeah, we also have some amazing ambassadors around the world who are creating amazing content around Playwright as well. So follow them on Twitter, and they've got loads of videos and stuff that you can watch, and they're giving talks around the world. And if you want to be an ambassador, click that button and talk to me. But basically, I just have one question for you. So, seriously, are you ready to Playwright? So thank you very much. We have docs, we have Twitter. Our YouTube is terrible. We're going to make more videos, but we do have amazing release videos, which I suggest you watch. We have a Slack channel, which is community-based. If you have any questions, pop them in there. Everything is open source and works on GitHub issues, so you do have any issues, send them in there. Follow me on Twitter if you have any questions. That's my email address, but I never, ever read my emails. So send me a DM on Twitter would be best. And thank you very much for your time. Have a fantastic rest of the conference. You've been an amazing audience, and you have the best chocolate in the world.